Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here today. Welcome back to our In the Know series, where we're kind of digging into the details on a variety of topics regarding the 2025 World Conference. My name is Jenn Killpack, and I serve the church as Director of Communications.
And I'm Susan Naylor, and I serve as the World Church Secretary and Director of First Presidency's Office. And we both serve as members of the World Conference Directors team.
So today we're going to talk about the 2025 World Conference schedule. And if you've been to World Conference in the past, you'll want to pay attention because the schedule flow is going to look a little different and feel a little different this time because of this historic conference.
So, hey, Jen, do you know that there's 108 days until World Conference begins?
That doesn't seem like enough, but I'm really excited about it. And 108 days, we can get a lot done in 108 days as we prepare.
Yes, we can. So where can you find the World Conference schedule online?
Okay, so I'm going to share screen.
Okay.
And we are going to go to the Sea of Christ homepage. So if you go to seaofchrist.org and look up here under Connect, and then travel over to World Conference. The schedule and other information is found here. So schedule is our little link here, drops you down to the schedule page. And then you can open up any of these days to see the schedule. And this is a pretty high level schedule. It's like kind of the main events. The more detailed schedule will be available closer to the event, but this gives you the highlights here of what will happen each day at conference.
That's very cool.
Do you want to start us off going through highlights of opening weekend?
Sure, I can do that. I know we said earlier that World Conference is an 8-day event. It's Friday to Friday, beginning 30 May in the afternoon with various information and discussion sessions. There's a session at 1:15 and another at 3 p.m. There will be several options to choose from for each of those time periods. And those times is providing additional information regarding legislation and maybe team reports, standing team reports. And so it's a good place to, Friday is a day of kind of settling in and getting prepared for the rest of the week. So I know that not everyone can be there Friday afternoon, but we love having people around, and we know conference is starting when we start to grow in capacity. So on Saturday, 31 May, for those pre-enrolled in Conference Kids and childcare, these two programs start at 8 a.m. because our first legislative session begins at 8:30 on Saturday morning in the auditorium conference chamber with the opening ceremonies and official opening of the conference. And during that morning, President Scott Murphy and President Stephen M. Veazey will share their final statements as their terms of presidency end. With these statements, the current First Presidency is dissolved. So that is not something we see every day. And with the dissolving of the presidency, all three members, Steve, Scott, and Stacey Cram, will leave the rostrum.
Okay, so if they leave, then who is presiding over the conference?
That is a really good question. According to sections 122 and section 148 of the Doctrine and Covenants, the Council of 12, as the second presidency, leads the church when the first presidency is dissolved or not able to function. So, on behalf of the Council of 12 Apostles, Moreva Arnaud Trong as president and Richard C. N. James as secretary will assume presiding responsibilities over the World Conference at that point. And so at this time, they will read the letter from the Council of 12 Apostles that states that, quote, Stacey D. Cram is called by God to be prophet president of Community of Christ, end quote. And so all of that, the opening ceremonies, the roll call of nations, the Eagle flags, Eagle staff ceremony, those closing statements, having new presiders, all of that is happening all Saturday morning. And then in the afternoon, the quorums, orders, caucuses, mass meetings will meet to consider the letter from the Council of 12 Apostles. Saturday evening, we will celebrate President Veazey's 20 years of courageous visionary leadership as its 8th prophet president. And after faithfully serving in full-time ministry for more than 42 years, Steve will be honored as he transitions from the burdens and responsibilities of prophet president to continue his ministry in retirement as president emeritus. I think that's just really cool. I love Steve. Afterwards, on the World Plaza, we plan to have a time of social gathering, getting to know one another, and being together. I would expect we're going to have some music and maybe some food, but we're still kind of in that planning stage. Maybe we can do a in the know in the future about some of these social events. So
that sounds really exciting. Okay, so that's a lot like on a high level, which then brings us over to Sunday. So that's a lot happening on Saturday.
There is. And so Sunday morning, we're going to take a big breath, collective breath together. There will be time in the temple sanctuary for meditation and preparation for communion. And the communion service will be in the auditorium conference chamber. We're anticipating that seating will be similar to the 2023 World Conference. And if you were there, you know that we sat every other row for a variety of reasons. But one of the things we learned was that this was extremely helpful in facilitating the serving of communion. And so we anticipate having that same configuration again. And so just saying that to help prepare people. And if we overflow those every other rows, we are prepared for overflow seating, and we want everybody to have that opportunity. So in the afternoon, the conference will convene the second legislative session with delegates in the conference chamber. And during this session, the Council of 12 will continue to preside, and the letter of from the Council of 12 Apostles will be considered and voted on. Now, if Stacy Cram is approved by the conference as the next prophet president of Community of Christ, her ordination service is planned for Sunday evening in the temple sanctuary. Overflow seating is planned for in the theaters, and outside on the World Plaza, there will be a large LED screen, tables, chairs, and opportunity for everyone to share the service. As with all services, worship services, these will be streamed live and available, open availability. After Stacy is ordained and during the end of the service, she will read a letter of counsel regarding World Church leadership changes. And again, after this service, we anticipate a celebratory time on the World Plaza with music, food, and community gathering. Saturday, Sunday.
So let's recap. Saturday morning, 8:30, conference begins with opening legislative meetings. We'll hear from the outgoing presidency. The Council of 12 will be presiding. They will share the letter of counsel, calling Stacy Cram to be the next president prophet. Then in the afternoon on Saturday, we'll go into quorum, caucus, mass meetings, and discuss that letter. And then Saturday evening, we'll worship and celebrate President Veazey's 20 years of service and ministry. And then Sunday morning, we'll have communion, worship together. Sunday afternoon, we'll discuss as a whole conference body Stacy's call to the president role. if that's approved, then we'll have her ordination service on Sunday evening.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So that brings us.
But we're not finished yet.
So that brings us to Monday morning, and we begin Monday morning back in quorum, council, mass meeting, and caucuses, and that's to consider the letter of council that Stacy will share on Sunday evening following her ordination, should her call be approved. All these things.
Yes.
So that letter will be about the World Church Leadership Council changes,
Yes.
and those meetings in the small groups will last all morning. Then Monday afternoon, we'll come back to legislative session as a whole body and spend the majority of the time considering that letter of council. President Cram, following her ordination that night, will preside over the conference. However, the full presidency has not been completed because those calls to counselor for the president are being considered. So therefore, the presiding bishop and the secretary of the Council of 12 will share in presiding with Stacy during the afternoon session.
That's right.
Okay. Then, if the leaders named in the letter of council are approved by the conference, Bunda C. Chibwe and Janae C. Grover will be ordained Monday evening, which will complete the first presidency, and Mareva Arnaud Chung will be ordained as the presiding evangelist.
Correct.
This service will also be in the temple, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And we'll continue again to share afterwards with music, food, and community on the World Plaza.
Yes. So that brings us to Tuesday morning, which begins with the quorum, orders, council, mass meetings, and caucuses again. And on Tuesday morning, with the anticipation of the leadership change approvals, Jenn Killpack, that's you, will be set apart as the president of Quorum of High Priests. I just want to say thank you, Jenn, for your sacred yes. And if there are those who would like to support you but are not high priests, can they come to the high priest meeting?
Yes. Everyone is most welcome, and I'm just really appreciative of the support I've received so far with these announcements. It's humbling and heartwarming.
Oh, thank you, Jenn. So following these morning meetings at 10:30 Tuesday morning, we will return to the legislative session, and the approval of priesthood calls to the leading quorums is critical to ensure continuation of leadership and is given priority early in the early sessions of the conference week. That's why you are seeing, a little different flow in our schedule, and it's important to complete the leadership council or the general officers of the church. So I want to say thank you to everyone who participated in the legislative prioritization survey last year. There are 14 proposed resolutions and a prophetic imagination session in the legislative agenda. And I'm sure that you're recognizing through this conversation that the majority of the conference so far has been with that critical task of ensuring the continuation of leadership. So where do we go next?
I'm going to pause for just 1 second before we jump on to the next piece. There was a question in the chat about refreshing some memory on caucuses, quorums, orders, and mass meetings. It's a whole lot of kind of weird words that are historic, but if you don't know what they mean, really don't have a lot of importance. So let's talk about quorums and orders first, I guess. The priesthood offices of the church are typically grouped in either a quorum, an order, or a mass meeting. I'm sure that we could have some historians on one time to explain where those terms came from, but we call the high priests a quorum, which is a group, so the quorum of high priests. the order of evangelists, the order of bishops. So evangelists, bishops, and high priests as priesthood groups meet in those settings. And then we have mass meetings, which are for the elders, and then a mass meeting for the Aaronic priesthood, which includes teachers, deacons, and priests. So those would be the mass meetings. Caucuses are groups of, I think I'm going to say this right, unordained, members and disciples.
Yes.
There is a English language caucus.
Mm-hmm.
There's a French language caucus, a Spanish language caucus. I think there's a Tahitian language caucus, and there's also a youth and children's caucus.
Yes.
Did I get them all?
I believe so.
Okay. So hopefully that helps kind of clear up what we're talking about when we talk about those kind of small groups that are meeting in a variety of locations around the complex.
Yeah. And I'll just add on to that, in addition to, what happens within those smaller groups is the opportunity to reflect on the letter of counsel for both Stacy and then the group of leadership changes. There's opportunity for worship. And there's opportunity for those groups to talk in a smaller group, and then each of those groups will be asked to vote and make their wishes known in support, or any other concerns regarding these changes. And also when it comes to resolutions, there's an informational aspect of it too. But each of those groups will send a written letter of reporting back to the conference. It will be sent to myself as the World Church Secretary, and I will report back to the conference the outcome of each of those small groups regarding Stacy's call and the Leadership Council calls. So a lot of things are happening.
It's a great question. Thanks, Marilyn. Also, if you were at the 2023 World Conference or kind of heard about some of the things that came out of that, that conference in 2023 gave strong support to continue working toward a church-wide statement on nonviolence. So time will be allotted in the schedule to consider the draft statement on nonviolence through the alternative common consent process. And you can see in the, hopefully the link came up here for where you can find that draft statement. And let's see. You can also, so we still have time also to get feedback. So in addition to just reading the statement, there is a survey where you can give some feedback to the current draft. That survey will close on the 28th of February. So coming up in just a couple weeks.
Can I just follow up on Marilyn's follow-up question? Can non-delegates participate in these groups that we were talking about?
Yeah.
And if you're a priesthood member, you can go to your quorum or mass meeting. Otherwise, the caucuses are for delegates only, is my understanding. I will go back and reread the information, and if I'm wrong, we'll make sure we get that communicated. So
it looks like there's another question here about delegates. Do we know if delegates are still needed, and if so, who would you contact?
You would contact your apostle, and if there is not a need in their field, they also can work with the council, the other members of the Council of 12, to see if there is a place for additional delegates. So thanks,
Great.
Debbie. So yeah, it's really interesting that this conference has had a lot of opportunity for input and participation in various ways, like the prioritization survey, the feedback on the draft statement, and I look forward to continuing conversations as we work together as a world church. So
good.
Okay.
I think Monday, Tuesday, we'll be talking a little bit about leadership changes and then moving into the draft statement on nonviolence. So that's kind of the general time or topic that we'll be using our legislative time together for.
So, and then Tuesday evening in the temple sanctuary, the 6 new apostles will be ordained, followed by a time of community and celebration on the Royal Plaza. So we are now to Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. And you told me earlier, or you told us earlier, that the presidency is also, or has already been reviewing and working on the legislative agenda, thinking about those 14 pieces plus the prophetic imagination session.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, that is right. And currently the presidency they've drafted a legislative agenda that we are still working with that would allow time for all 14 pieces of legislation, proposed resolutions, to be completed before lunch on Friday. Remember, now we're at Wednesday. So, but we believe it is possible, leaving time for a prophetic imagination session on Friday afternoon.
Okay, interesting, because I feel like when I looked at the results, the prioritization results, the prophetic imagination session ranked pretty high. So why Friday afternoon? That seems like a long time from the top.
You are correct. Even though the prophetic imagination session was ranked as priority number 2, the First Presidency scheduled the session after the Thursday night worship, where the First Presidency anticipates sharing their message and vision going forwards towards 2028. And so the prophetic imagination session would be a follow-up experience to the Thursday night worship. And even though the legislative agenda shows all 14 proposed resolutions being completed before lunch on Friday, it is possible that the conference will need more legislative time than what the presidency has allotted to adequately address all 14 proposed resolutions to the delegates' satisfaction. And like the 2023 World Conference, if the standing rules are passed as submitted, any resolution that is not completed before the adjournment time will automatically be referred to the First Presidency.
This is a lot to take in.
Yes, it is. It's a good thing we're recording this. I'm sure people will want to go back and re-listen. So yes, it is a lot. And if the conference has not finished considering the proposed resolutions before the lunch break on Friday, the presidency is going to ask the delegates to make a decision regarding the use of the remaining legislative time after lunch on Friday. Delegates will be able to have the opportunity to vote for either participating in a prophetic imagination session and referring unfinished legislation to the First Presidency, or continuing consideration of the unfinished proposed resolutions until the official adjournment of the legislative session. This vote will help, we believe, will help ensure that the delegates are spending the final legislative time on what the body deems most important.
Okay. So I guess like what we need to remember is that as delegates prepare for World Conference and as we move through the legislative agenda together, it sounds like we're really being encouraged to reflect on the importance of both the prophetic imagination session and the proposed resolutions.
Right. I think it's important to remember is how do we stay focused on what matters most and how we're using our time together in legislative sessions in the most efficient and effective way possible. So it's a tough call.
It is. You want to make sure that there's time for discussion and hearing, perspectives on these legislative session or legislative items at the same time, not falling into the trap of group editing, changing like one word or one small phrase. as a communicator, that's hard. I know.
Yeah. But, I think from experience, Community of Christ rises to the occasion
Mhm.
and does, I believe we do our best to try and answer the question, where will God's Spirit lead us today? So, um,
Okay, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have a lot of things to accomplish. Do you want to walk us through a couple of those highlights on Wednesday,
yeah, let
Thursday,
me
Friday?
yeah, let me just give you some highlights. Obviously, by now you recognize we're going to be in legislative sessions. We're going to be worshiping. Um, and the quorum and caucus meetings, all of that. But on Wednesday, the joint quorums of 70 in their meeting will consider two new calls and set apart two presidents of 70 that morning. Those who don't serve in the office of 70, but who would like to support these two new calls are welcome to attend as non voting participants. Also on Wednesday, the leadership quorums of the church will have been completed and everyone will take their seats on the rostrum. And during that morning legislative session, the election results for the Council of 12 president and secretary will be announced. They will have had these elections in their council meetings. So during the prayer for peace at 1 o'clock on Wednesday in the temple sanctuary, the president of the Council of 12 Apostles will be set apart during that service. Wednesday evening is a time for receptions, community building, getting together with friends, old and new, and somewhere in there, prioritizing some rest. So be kind to yourself. And yeah, but there's nothing large happening Wednesday night. Thursday, during the Quorum of High Priests, they will set apart new members of the Standing High Council. And again, those who would like to support this setting apart service and are not high priests are certainly welcome to attend. Thursday evening in the temple sanctuary, the first presidency, which is anticipated now to be Stacey Cram, Bunda Chibwe, and Janae Grover, will preside and share in the message and vision going forward towards 2028. And this will be our last evening together of the 2025 World Conference. We are planning a special event on the World Plaza following the worship service. So we're not quite ready to unveil all the detail. We're still getting plans kind of put in place. But we're excited about this opportunity. Friday, there are no quorum order caucus or mass meetings, and the legislative session begins at 8:30 in the conference chamber. And as mentioned earlier, the afternoon will be spent either with time with prophetic imagination or continuing in legislative session. So the closing commissioning service, worship service, will begin at 3:45 in the conference chamber and will be led by the Council of 12 and Presidents of 70. Yes, I think you're muted.
I am. I was like, and then we'll all need to take a nap because we'll be very tired. That is
Yes,
a
everyone.
full week. Full week.
Yes. We've had a lot of questions coming and going in here.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down here and see where we left off. I'm going to start with Roger's question. His question is if there's some kind of international incident that precludes non-US delegates from attending in person, what happens then?
That is a very good question. And we do have remote sites that are being supported. As we move forward, we will have to make that consideration of what does happen. I don't have an exacting answer for that today, but know that we are talking about that. And the climate of our world certainly leads that into our agenda of conversation. So
Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the youth service core opportunity and what that may entail.
That's youth who are ages 12 to 18.
Yes.
And those youth, they work together. They usually are scheduled in shifts. I will say that the youth who have worked in the Youth Service Corps have made friendships that have been long lasting past World Conference. So great experience. They help us with everything from possibly staffing an information booth sometimes in a pinch, to passing out bulletins, to running errands. Often, I, I'm,
They're
I
kind
know
of like our conference pages, if you're
yeah,
familiar with like the page program at, a legislative conference.
yes,
So they take care of all kinds of tasks that
mm-hmm.
need a physical person to do a thing.
Yeah. And you'll see them sitting on the rostrum at the back on either side, and they help the people on the rostrum if they need something picked up that's off the rostrum or something's being delivered. They're kind of the go-between, so we don't have not too much commotion happening on the rostrum. And so it is, if I could be 15, I would like to do that.
It's a lot of fun. Let's see. I don't think we can answer this quite yet, but Caleb had a question about young adult activities. We could talk a little bit about some of the special group activities that are happening at a high level, and then that might be a good topic for another In the Know session to invite some of those planners to join us.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I know Mickey, what's her last? Philippe, and Melissa Shear are coordinating the young adult activities, and they are, I think they've reached out and asked if there are people who would like to also be part of their committee. So, but yeah, as Jen said, we'll pull a group of those. Umberto and Andre are coordinating the youth activities in the evening, which would be
Junior high and high school. You think is that
junior high, middle school, high school age, 15 to 18-ish in that area. But we'll pull that group together and have a In the Know session. That would be good.
Let's see. There was a question about for people who are unable to attend conference. Can we clarify? I lost it. Clarify what is included in the live streaming: registration, worship services, legislative sessions, etc. Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So if you're unable to attend World Conference, you can register to get access to live stream of the legislative sessions, which will be Monday through Friday. The legislative sessions that are happening on the weekend that include, the discussions of Stacey Cram's call, as well as other leadership calls, those will be live streamed on YouTube at no cost. All worship services will be live streamed free. Those will be on our Sea of Christ YouTube channel. And when you register for the legislative sessions, you also get access to the legislative materials, like all of the delegate materials in a digital format. So that those options are, all of the registration options are linked in the registration section on the Sea of Christ World Conference webpage. So you can click that registration button and see all the options for registration. So I think, so Jared, I'm just going to answer Jared's question too about ordination services. So all the worship services all week long will be on YouTube, available there, live streamed.
Yeah. So Jen, there's a question about a conference app. You want to take that one too?
Sure. We've found over the last several years that native apps, so apps that you would find like in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, are really expensive, and they are very time consuming to populate. So what we've been leaning into last conference and we'll do again this conference is using mobile friendly websites. So you can access all of the materials on your phone or on your device, but we will not be having a specific World Conference native app that you would have to download from one of the app stores.
Okay. So Lisa's asking about the list of hotels. And I know our web team now has that list from Kara, our director, and those will be uploaded this week as soon as they can get to that. So we anticipate it will be there this week. So,
okay. Do you want to take the question about introducing new legislation during World Conference Week?
In our standing rules, we have legislation has to be submitted a year in advance. Those small caucuses and quorums are not legislative creating legislation. However, within those smaller groups, sometimes I know a conference, maybe last conference, maybe it was the 2019, Jen, the High Priest Quorum wrote a letter
Yes.
with recommendations of what either their concerns. I can't remember even now what the topic was at the moment, but something like that could come that direction. But no, there is no legislative generation during the week.
Right.
So, and I see a question about the dates for the 2028 conference, which is a good question, but they are still in consideration. So watch for that announcement. I don't have it yet. And there was another one.
I feel like there's a question about the seating chart. The seating chart will not be available until probably 2 or 3 weeks prior to World Conference. So that piece of information is much, much closer to probably May. I would guess probably sometime in May that information will be available.
Yeah.
What else do we have here?
A list of menus.
Yes.
I know we have them. Are they not up?
No.
Oh.
We will figure out where and how to share those.
Absolutely, because I know I've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. Thank you, Leon, for sharing your experience about online participation and that it was a good experience.
And Leon's like giving us like all kinds of, he's tossing us the softballs to hit. So he mentions WhatsApp, which is an app used extensively for, as he said, a lot of things outside of the US. Many of our ministers and members around the world use WhatsApp for communicating, texting, sharing photos and videos, etc. And we've been talking about potentially using or leaning into WhatsApp as a way of sharing fast announcements during World Conference. So as we explore what that looks like, we'll be sure to communicate that with delegates who will be on site. And it may give many of our American delegates an opportunity to see what communication is like, maybe outside of the normal, maybe what Americans would consider normal, like texting. Yes, there are plans to have food trucks. We don't have that.
That's usually a last minute thing. Food trucks, we usually issue an invitation. It depends on the truck, because the conference does not guarantee a truck a certain amount that they will make during the week. And so if they're willing to come and participate they're taking a gamble, and we understand that. And so, but we have trucks that do come, and I would say we have more trucks in the area than we've had in a long time. So,
Let's
yes,
see.
there will be an international village called Mission Expo. It'll be in the temple. You're starting to probably hear us say it'll be in the temple. It'll be in the temple sanctuary. It'll be on the World Plaza. We're wanting to experience and live into the life of the temple, and so a lot of things are happening in the temple. The conference store will be in the temple. The village, the Mission Expo will be in the village. Randy, if you are looking to participate, you might talk with your apostle, with your field, and because we offer that to fields, and it needs to be sponsored by a field. And then Joey Williams is coordinating those invitations. So he could help you with that. And I did see one other comment as we were going by, that in 5 years, it'll be the 200th anniversary of the church.
Mm-hmm.
We are already talking about that. So keep that, it's out here. We know it's coming, and we do have some plans that are starting to kind of gel together and becoming exciting. So
yeah,
continue to move. Wow, this has been a lot, and a lot of good questions. Thank you so much. We love seeing everybody online, and tell your friends, share this at church on Sunday or Sunday school class as you prepare to come to conference. I think we've covered most of the. Roger asks, how is delegate seating determined? Roger, it's a big puzzle. We try and move people around so that a certain delegation is not always in the same location. I will say that we're going to offer the balcony seating for any delegate that does not want to be seating too close to one another, feels like they want to socially isolate if needed. And so there will be a delegate section with a lectern and a microphone to participate from the balcony. But we try to move people around. It depends on the size of delegations and how this all fits together. So giant jigsaw puzzle. So, well, I just want to say thank you to everyone. And remember, you can find the World Conference information and registration links at seaofchrist.org/2025 World Conference, or on the church's website. Click on Connect, like Jen said, and go to events. I also want to say, watch for more information coming in the next week or so, inviting the church into a time of preparation and an opportunity for a special offering of support for the World Conference on 23 February. So that's in a couple weeks. This offering and preparation occurs before every conference, and we look forward as we collectively lift our prayers for preparation and offer our generosity for this pivotal event in the life of the community of Christ. So, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks on 24 February for another In the Know. We are expecting a guest, still waiting on a confirmation, and watch for upcoming announcements. So we wish you all have a wonderful week, and God bless.
bye everybody.